And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. Welcome to Benchley night. I am home. It is Sunday. Time to read some Benchley, don't you think? I certainly think so. Anyway, we've been gone for a couple of weeks. We were off in New Mexico and Arizona. The great Betty Sue met up with us in Chicago, and then we took the train out to Santa Fe, and then we went from Santa Fe to Winslow, Arizona, and it was wonderful. Hi, Terry Hudson. Oh, 3 people are watching. It's lovely to be here. It's lovely that you're here. Tonight's liberal snowplowing do-gooder beneficiary is, it's Facebook watcher, Facebook user, and Kimberly Crowder from Atlanta. Hi. Our beneficiary tonight is ProPublica, because in this time of mendacity and fake news, it's good to have good investigative reporting still continue. So we thank you all for supporting ProPublica. Nat Hunter is here. Nat Hunter, my very tall cousin. Hi, very tall cousin, I didn't see a contribution from my very tall cousin, but I'm going to bet that, well, his odds are so good at making contributions, I think he'll get a shout out anyway. Let me just add him right now. There we go. Anyway, so we raised a couple $100 for ProPublica, and thank you all for doing that. A few people to thank. Our good friend out there in Saxons River, Vermont, Ms. Martha Rowley. Our good friend right here in Bellows Falls, Vermont, who's briefly out of Facebook jail, Mr. Rick Gavatsky. Out there in Omaha, Nebraska, fine photographer and trained fancier, our good friend, Mr. John T. Wilhelm. Out there in St. Louis, Missouri, learning more about St. Louis history every week, ladies and gentlemen, the great Terry Hudson. Down there in Bonneville, Massachusetts, probably about ready to start having to deal with bears. I don't think they've had to deal with bears yet. Up. Nat Hunter says, what? I didn't even click to pay the fee. I'll go back and check after the show's over this evening. Thank you, Nat Hunter. I wrote you down. Down there in Bonneville, Massachusetts, fighting off the bears, if the bears are awake yet, and I suspect that probably are. Oh, we have a cat, ladies and gentlemen. We have a cat right here. Hi, Charbonneau. Mr. Gary Pearson and Neen Cortez. We have Anonymous. And out there in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, maybe a day late and $1 short, but he's there, ladies and gentlemen. He may not have been a day late and $1 short. It just may be the Facebook gods are as capricious as gods always are. Out there in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we look up to him, literally and figuratively. My very, 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 very tall cousin, Mr. Nat Hunter, his wonderful wife, Elise, and their teeny tiny dog, Ginger. Thank you all so much. Hi, Gary Pierce. Now, tonight's reading is from a Benchley book I was given last year after I taught out in Michigan. One of my students sent me about a half dozen Benchley books that I had not encountered before. This is The Treasurer's Report and Other Aspects of Community Singing by Robert Benchley, but that isn't the name of this essay. This essay is entitled The Sunday Menace. I am not a gloomy person by nature, nor am I easily depressed. I always say that, no matter how much it looks as if the sun were never going to stop shining, and no matter how long the birds carry on in their seemingly incessant chatter, there's always a good sleet storm just around the corner and a sniffly head cold in store for those who will only look for it. You can't keep old stepmother nature down for that long. Oh, Charbonneau is settling down on the keyboard, so if I suddenly disappear, that's the reason why, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, he's so cute. He's now stuck his paw over my notes. Thank you, Charbonneau. But I'm holding the book in my hand, so he can't get his little mitts on that. But I frankly see no way out of the problem of Sunday afternoon. For centuries, Sunday afternoon has been Old Nell's curse amongst the days of the week. Sunday morning may be cheery enough with its extra cup of coffee and litter of Sunday newspapers, but there is always hanging over it the ominous threat of 3 p.m. when the sun gets around to the back windows and life stops dead in its tracks. No matter where you are, in China, on the high seas, or in a bird's nest, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, a pall descends over all the world, and people everywhere start trying to think of something to do. You might as well try to think of something to do in the death house at Sing Sing, however, because even if you do it, where does it get you? It's still Sunday afternoon. The blue jeebs begin to drift in along about dessert at Sunday dinner. The last 3 or 4 spoonfuls of ice cream somehow lose their flavor, and you begin crumbling up your cake instead of eating it. By the time you have finished coffee, there is a definite premonition that before long, maybe in 40 or 50 minutes, you will be told some bad news, probably involving the death of several favorite people, maybe even yourself. This feeling gives way to one of resignation. What is there to live for anyway? At this point, your dessert begins to disagree with you. On leaving the dining room and wandering aimlessly into the living room indeed, there will be precious little living done in that room this afternoon. Everyone begins to yawn. The drifts of Sunday papers on the floor, which looked so cozy before dinner, now are just depressing reminders of the transitory nature of human life. Uncle Ben makes for the sofa and promptly drops off into an unattractive doze. The children start quarreling amongst themselves and finally involve the grown-ups in what threatens to be a rather nasty brawl. "Why don't you go out and play?" someone asks. "Play what?" is their retort, and that is a good one, too. This brings up the whole question of what to do, and there is a half-hearted attempt at thinking on the part of the more vivacious members of the party. Somebody goes to the window and looks out. He goes back to his chair, and somebody else wanders over to another window and looks out there, pressing the nose against the pane and breathing absent-mindedly against the glass. This has practically no effect upon the situation. In an attempt to start conversation, a garrulous one says, "Hi-ho!" This falls flat, and there is a long silence while you look through the pile of newspapers to see if you missed anything in the morning's perusal. You even read the ship news and the book advertisements. "Say, this Life of Susan B. Anthony looks as if it might be a pretty good book," you say. "What makes you think so?" queries Ed crossly. Ed came out to dinner because he was alone in town and now wishes he had not. He is already thinking up an excuse to get an early train back. There being no good reason why you think that the life of Susan B. Anthony might be interesting, you say nothing. Excuse me, Charbonneau. You're starting to play with my controls, and I have to move you. Ow, 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 ow. Yeah. Okay, Sharps, down. Sorry about that. Hi, Judith Timmons. Now, what is Nat Hunter saying? We had NCAA hoops games here this weekend. I didn't go to any games, but I did talk with someone downtown this morning who come in from Oregon for the games who had me by about 2 inches. Really? They make them tall out in Oregon, don't they, Mr. Tall Cousin? All right. Where were we? Oh, about Susan B. Anthony. There being no good reason why you think that the life of Susan B. Anthony might be interesting, you say nothing. You didn't really think that it might be interesting anyway. A walk is suggested, resulting in groans from the rest of the group. The idea of bridge arouses only 2 out of the necessary 4 to anything resembling enthusiasm. The time for the arrival of bad news is rapidly approaching. By now, it is fairly certain to involve death. The sun strikes in through the window, and you notice that green chair needs reupholstering. The rug doesn't look any too good either. What's the use, though? There'd be no sense in getting a lot of new furniture when everyone is going to be dead before long anyway. It is a funny thing about the quality of the sunshine on a Sunday afternoon. On other days, it is just sunshine and quite cheery in its middle-class way. But on Sunday afternoon, it takes on a penetrating harshness which does nothing but show up the furniture. It does not make any difference where you are. You may be hanging around the Busy Bee lunch in Hong Kong or polishing brass on a yacht in the North Sea. You may be out tramping across the estate of one of the vice presidents of a big trust company, or you might be teaching Indians in Arizona. The Sunday afternoon light makes you dissatisfied with everything it hits. It has got to be stopped. When the automobile came in, it looked as if the Sunday afternoon problem was finally solved. You could climb in at the back door of the old steamer and puff out into the country, where at least you wouldn't have to hear people playing Narcissus on the piano several houses away. People several houses away are always playing Narcissus on the piano on Sunday afternoons. If there's one sound that is typical of a Sunday afternoon, it is that of a piano being played several houses away. I suppose nowadays, in much of the area, you'd say it'd be leaf blowers, but it is true, of course, that even out in the country, miles away from everything, you could always tell it was Sunday afternoon by the strange behavior of the birds. But you could at least pick out an open field and turn somersaults, first taking the small change out of your pockets. Or you could run head on into a large oak, causing insensibility. At least you could in the early days of automobiling. But as soon as everybody got automobiles, the first thing they did, naturally, was to try to run away from Sunday afternoon, with the result that every country road within 100 miles of any city has now taken the place of the old-time county fair, without the pleasure of the cattle and the jam exhibits. Today, the only difference between Sunday afternoon in the city and Sunday afternoon in the country is that in the country, you don't know the people who are in your lap. Aside from the unpleasantness of being crowded in with a lot of strangers on a country road and not knowing what to talk about during the long hours while the automobiles are waiting to move ahead, there is the actual danger of an epidemic. Supposing someone took a child out riding in the country on Sunday, and while they were jammed in line with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of other pleasure riders, the child came down with tonsillitis. There she would be, a carrier of disease, in contact with at least 2/3 of the population, giving off germs right and left, and perhaps starting an epidemic which would sweep the country, before the crowds could get back to their homes and gargle. Subways and crowded tenements have long been recognized as breeding grounds for afflictions of the nose and throat. Are country roads on Sunday afternoon to be left entirely without official regulations? I really have no remedy for Sunday afternoon, at least none that I have any confidence in. The only one that might work would be to rearrange the week in your own mind so that Sunday afternoon falls on Saturday. Now, Saturday afternoon is as cheery as Sunday afternoon is depressing. Perhaps we might try taking a day from some week, let's say Wednesday, because Wednesday would not matter. Then Saturday would be Sunday and Sunday would be Monday. This would do away with all that problem of what to do on Sunday afternoon, because there are always plenty of things to do on a Saturday, and you would get the benefit of Saturday afternoon sunshine, which is really delightful. Sunday afternoon sunshine would then wreak its havoc on Monday afternoon, and you'd be working anyway, and you might not notice it. Of course, this system would be complicated unless everybody else would agree to make the same rearrangement in the week, and that might take quite a long time to bring about. If you were making a date for, let us say, Friday morning, you would have to say that would be Thursday morning of your week, and perhaps people would get irritated at that. In fact, word might get out that you are a little irresponsible and your business might drop off. Personally, a little slump in business would not be too great a price for me to pay for having Sunday fall on a Saturday, but I don't suppose that I could sell the idea to many of you money-mad Americans. I may have to be a lone pioneer in this thing and perhaps be jeered at, as Fulton was jeered at. All right, go ahead and jeer. But until the thing is in good running order, there will have to be some suggestions in what to do on Sunday afternoons as we have it now. I can do no more than hint at them, but if there's one amongst them which appeals to you in outline, I will be glad to take it up with you in more detail. First, I would suggest setting fire to the house along about 1:30 p.m. If the fire were nursed along, it would cause sufficient excitement to make you forget what day it was, at least until it was time to turn on the lights for the evening. Or you might go down into the cellar right after dinner and take the furnace apart, promising yourself to have it put together again by supper time. Here, at least, the sunlight couldn't get at you. Or you could rent a diver's suit and go to the nearest body of water and spend the afternoon tottering about under the surface, picking sea anemone and old bits of wreckage. The method which I myself have tried with considerable success and little expense, however, is to buy a small quantity of veronal at the nearest druggist. Now, sidebar, ladies and gentlemen, veronal was the trade name of the first commercially available barbiturate. I looked that up today, so I'd know A, how to pronounce it, and B, what I was talking about. Is to buy a small quantity of veronal at the nearest druggist, put it slyly in my coffee on Saturday night, and then bundle off to bed. When you wake up on Monday morning, you might not feel crisp, but at least Sunday will be over. And that I take it, is what we are after. All right, ladies and gentlemen. All right, that is Benchley night for tonight. We'll be back next week with some more great American humor at 7:45 p.m. Eastern. All this coming week, ladies and gentlemen, if you just want to hear me blathering, all this coming week, I will be hosting Art School Live because Eric Rhodes of Streamline Publishing is off painting in Japan or something. So I'm the guest host, and that's noon all week long. Good gravy. Anyway, you take good care, and we'll see you next week. And we'll see what happens with Trump Tower. Bye-bye.